I'm Cynthia James, and this network is about changing lives one woman at a time. Hello, and welcome to Women Awakening. I'm your host, Cynthia James, and I'm so excited that I have the opportunity, and I consider blessing, to be able to introduce you to fabulous women. You know, women who have said, I know who I am. They've tapped into the purpose that lives within them, and they're here to deliver it. And so they are way showers, and they are people that are saying, let me open the portals of possibility to you so that you can step through and bring your gifts. And we do these every week. We're on all the platforms: Spotify, iHeart, Spreaker, Amazon, video on YouTube. Just look for Women Awakening with Cynthia James. You can also go to my website. Excuse my little voice is getting a little crackly. You can go to my website, cynthiajames.net. And there's lots of gifts for you, and you can join my community. I'm always here to serve and support. So I have a guest today that's new to me. Her name is Cathy Derksen. She's the producer of the forthcoming book, Grit and Tenacity: Women Transforming Leadership in Business and Community. Cathy is the founder of Inspired Tenacity Global Solutions, Inc. She's a disruptor and a catalyst dedicated to improving the lives of women in her community and around the world. Her mission is to help women rediscover their brilliance, find their voice, and step into new possibilities. Cathy is an international speaker and 12 times #1 best-selling author. She has created a platform for women to share their wisdom and inspiring stories in collaborative books, taking them from chapter concept to best-selling author in a simple, exciting process. Cathy, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me, Cynthia. And yeah, I just need to update that bio. I'm now a 17-time best-selling author by the end of the month. So it's
Yay!
jumped a bit since we wrote that bio.
Congratulations.
I love it.
So I want to start with how you were born and how you grew up. Because a lot of times people look at success and they go, well, how do I get there? Not having any idea where people came from. So how did you grow up?
Hmm. Let's see. Well, I'll describe it as we moved a lot. So when I was a kid, a lot of it, my dad was an engineer, so he would go where the company needed him for different jobs. So we didn't live anywhere more than 3, 4 years was the longest we were anywhere, and a lot of them were much shorter than that. And so I think kind of what developed my childhood was learning how to adapt and always
Mm,
be the new kid and always be figuring out, how do I fit in here? What's next? And then at the same time, in the back of your mind, keeping in mind that you're not staying for long. So, don't necessarily sink your roots in, but just adapt, do well where you are, and know that you're going on to something else. So I think that was a big part of my childhood, and kind of,
mhm.
I think I've learned a lot of skills from that, in this ability to adapt and change, and always be kind of intuitive about what's going on around you and what might be happening next, kind of thing. And I think another part of my childhood that was a key part to my early career was a love for life and biology and
Mm.
anything living. I always say that I was a biologist from the age of 3. As soon as I was old enough to make decisions about what I liked and wanted and was curious about, it was all about all the living things around me and collections of bugs and snakes and lizards, and of course cats and dogs and bunnies as well. But so those are a couple of the things that kind of shaped my early life.
Uh, well, I understand it. We moved a lot, but it had to do with our economic situation. And so I totally get the whole thing of adapting and flexibility and really discovering where do you belong in any given moment. So I want to talk about your work. So tell me what is inspired tenacity global solutions?
Well, the global solutions part got added when I incorporated because they told me I needed to have a bigger name that meant something else. So, Inspired Tenacity is the name that I gave birth to it with, and and it really came about. I guess about 4 years ago. I was working a job that I just knew was not where I belonged, was not the answer to the rest of my life. And that's when I made the decision to really set out on my own and start my own business. And like you read in my mission, this whole idea, I knew I wanted to do something that involved really helping women change their life in a positive way and to create like a true impact on the lives of women around the world, like in a global way. And and the name Inspired Tenacity, I people ask me where it came from, and I think it just came from I was in the middle of going through a divorce, a complete career change, all these different things at the time, and it hit me that those were a couple of the key things that we need to make any big change in our life. We need that inspiration to do it, but then we need that tenacity to just
Mhm.
keep at it until we get to that next thing. And I always say courage is the other word that goes in the middle there, but of course that would be a bit of a mouthful. But inspiration, courage, and tenacity to me are what we need to really make any big change in our lives. So that's where that came from.
Yeah, well, so I want to talk about um, transition because so many of the women that I interview, have gone through big transition moments that became the catalyst for their what's next. So going through this divorce and changing career. So were there moments where you felt unsure? Were there moments you were confused about what to do next?
Oh, yes, definitely. And my As I kind of alluded to, my original career was in medical genetics. So I did follow my love of biology and went into that. And I was worked in that field for 25 years. And it was when I came up to realizing that my marriage was abusive and toxic. And I had two teenagers at the time that were both, struggling in their own way because of the kind of toxic family environment we had. And that's when it really hit me that I needed to get them out of this situation as well as myself. And it definitely took a lot of major decisions to decide, okay, we are leaving. And part of that, like I mentioned, was I completely changed my career at the same time in this idea that I needed to do something else that would really allow me to look after my kids by myself. And
Mhm.
so it really was kind of yes, there were definitely days that I was might have cried myself to sleep, or those times when I thought, what have I done? And actually, in the first book that I participated in, the multi-author book, I tell a lot of that story. And I literally had a mantra, I guess you'd call it, a phrase that I held on to. And it was chin up, keep moving.
Mhm.
Because sometimes there was nothing else to hold on to. Like everything around me was, chaos in its own way. But I just knew I had to hold us all up and I had to make the decisions and the changes and just keep us moving forward. And so that was one of my ways of just carrying on. And I guess that's one of my big examples of tenacity as well, was just that chin up, keep moving. You know things are getting better and you're going in the right direction. Just keep going.
Yeah. And those of us who've been through a divorce and have children, I mean, there's a whole adjustment and also a survival thing that kicks in. It's like, how do we take care of each other? So I want to know the work that you're doing today. Um, Talk to me about these multi-author books and where did that come from?
Yeah, and actually people ask me if this was a progression of something else in my life. And if you had asked me 5 years ago if I was going to get into publishing and be involved in books, I probably would have laughed at you because in those, there was nothing in my past that would have suggested that. And it was around 2019 that I first got started in multi-author books, and I was just one of the authors in other people's projects. And I found that I got a lot of value out of the books. And it's amazing how sharing our story and our journey in writing and putting it out to the world, there's almost a therapeutic side to it. And I really got hooked with it. I just loved how every book brought me into a different community of people. Every book opened new doors to opportunities, whether it was speaking or just getting into different activities that I hadn't been involved in. And really everything that goes on in my life right now in my business all comes from the books that I've been in the past. So, as I mentioned, now I'm up to 17 books. Many of those were other people's projects that I was just one of the other writers involved in. And it hit me about 3 years ago. I thought, I love this. I get a lot of value from this. I feel it creates a lot of impact in my life. And that's what really the little light came on in my head. And it's like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be bringing this opportunity to women to really help them step into these possibilities that they don't see yet. They say that 92% of people have it on their bucket list that they want to be a published author, but only about 5% of people ever do. And I think for a lot of people, that's because they don't know where to get started. There's that little voice in their head that tells them they're not an author. Who are they to think they're going to write a book? And I find these multi-author books are the perfect answer to that because you only write one chapter. You're working with a team of other women from around the world who are working on this common mission. And it gets out there, it gets published. We hit international bestseller, and it really kind of opens that door of what are the next possibilities? What else can I do? And so even now I still participate in other book projects, like somebody else's book that is in alignment with what I'm on and all about. And then I'm also constantly creating new books that are always on themes that women are inspired to read about and write about. So far, a couple examples, actually one that would fit right in with your theme was midlife awakening. And right now I've got another one that we're just bringing people into. It's called Midlife Reimagined.
So now this is a business for you. So
Yes.
so if I want to be included in a book, do I submit an application? I mean, how do I get in? And then what is the investment for me to, or is there an investment for me to be involved in it?
Yeah, exactly. So basically, it's not so much an application, but I jump on a Zoom like this with people, and we have this chat about, what their vision is, what they'd like to write about, get a feel for how they'd fit into different projects. And I always have several different projects on the go, so I can pick and choose like which one would be the best fit for that person. And then, yes, the projects that I work on are a pay to play, as they
Mhm.
say. And so basically, there's a whole team of people that create these books. So I do the front end of creating the titles and themes and bringing people together. And then I've got a publishing team that I work with that does all the editing, proofreading, formatting. They create all the marketing materials. They do the Amazon launch. We hit international #1 bestseller with everything. And and what we do is with all the Amazon proceeds, we donate it to a nonprofit group.
Mm.
And when you've got 20 people in a project, it makes a lot more sense to send all of the money, because the reality is there's not a lot of money that's made from the sale of books. The
No,
real
not at all.
value is really what you do as an author and with your story. And so, yes, so with my projects, I keep the investment as low as possible, really, covering these expenses, but really keeping it accessible for as many women as possible. So my books right now are between 1,500 and 2,000 US.
Hmm.
And that's where I find that that's a good level. And I also make available options for monthly payments as well to, again, make it more accessible to many people.
Well, that's great because if you think about trying to do it on your own, which, I think my first couple of books I did, it becomes quite expensive, but also you're clueless. You
Yes.
don't
Yeah.
know exactly what you're doing, where to go, how to do it. I mean, so you're offering people an opportunity to put their foot in the water
Yes.
in a powerful way.
Yes. And even, yes, when you're mentioning the cost of it, when you look at the correct editing, for one
Mhm.
thing, and the proper marketing are a couple of the expensive parts that people don't realize. But for example, though, right now, one of the books that we're launching is called The Evolution of Leadership in STEM, Women Catalyzing Change. And with
Mm.
that book, right now, we've got 20 women who are all amplifying each other on social media, promoting the whole thing. And so you think about it from a networking point of view and a way of expanding your network as a business owner, sitting in this with 20 other people from around the world who are all amplifying and sharing each other. It's a massive way of really expanding your network.
Yeah, well, and I love this, but I want to talk about, you know, women's, I don't even know, how do I want to phrase this? Not always having confidence in themselves, not always following through on what they say they want to do, and 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 not feeling self-assured that what they want to talk about is even relevant. So how do
Yes.
you address those things?
Yes, and that is definitely a very common story that I hear. And definitely one of the great parts about being in a multi-author book is that you're not alone and that you are getting that support of this whole group of women that are often going through very similar feelings. And I find it helps a lot when I do jump on a Zoom like this with each author and we have that conversation about, so what is has your journey been? What brought you to where you are now, what you're doing next. And I find that being able to have that conversation and really kind of fleshing out for them and helping them see their story and what's unique about their story and how, again, getting them to reflect, how would your story help another woman who's going through a similar thing? To give her some guidance, to give her some encouragement about, you went through this, she can get through this too. And when I kind of turn it around like that and I really kind of spotlight what they've learned and how their story can help others, I find that's really a big turning point.
Yeah. So how old are your children now?
I say 30-ish. One's 30, one's 31.
Okay, all right. So I mean, this is a big business that you have. I mean, this is you're managing a lot of details and managing a lot of people. How do you find the time, or how do you create the time for you, for your family connection, for your personal life?
That is a very good question. And I have to admit that I am one of those women entrepreneurs that tends to get really wrapped up in work and doesn't necessarily spend enough time doing just fun, relaxing things or spending time with people in real life. But definitely my daughter still lives with me, so I see her regularly, and which
Mhm.
is good because then she is definitely a distraction. She gets home from work and then okay, now it's dinner time and now it's and she actually helps a lot by, getting me busy with things on the weekend or, getting away from just working all the time. And lately I've definitely been putting more thought into that and knowing that I need to be spending more time really with people and, looking after myself and those sorts of things. So I
No,
do have a ways to go, but I'm working on it.
well, I love, and the reason I wanted to have this part of the conversation is finding harmony in life. And I don't call it balance because balance feels like this, like you're just on either side, one or the other. But, you know, when people come to you to work with you, you know, what what advice are you giving them around bringing their voice, but also caring for themselves in the process?
Well, I mean, I'm definitely always reminding them that this project is not supposed to add stress to their life. That this is, something that is to be fun and a new adventure. And so when they do come to me and they're worried about, oh, I'm not getting this done fast enough, or oh, this isn't good enough, really helping them to just settle back down and reassuring them that we can work on this together, that do not feel like you are being pressured or that there's some kind of really negative thing hanging over you with this, that that's not what we're doing here. And so that part definitely helps, that reassurance that I find that they often need along the way. And one of the things we do too is that we have group Zooms where we get together for the different
Mm,
authors in the each book. And I think that helps as well, because then they're really, able to meet each other and see what they're all up to in life, and they're connecting with each other, making new friends, which I find really helps to build that kind of just exposure to new things, new ideas, new potential activities. And I find that helps.
yeah, and so where do your clients come from? I mean,
Yeah, yeah, a lot of it. I don't have any big mass email campaigns and that sort of thing. I find that the kind of organic networking and reaching out to people is what works best for me. And so a lot of it is women's organizations that I'm involved in. At first, I think it's a relatively novel idea for most people, the idea that they can be in a book and they just write one chapter, and it's this whole thing. So I find that being parts of communities where people can let the idea sink in a bit, and then the opportunities come up, and then they can say, yes, I want to do this, because now they're familiar with the idea, and it's like, okay, they did this, now I can do this. And so that's one of the things that really helps. And my main social media is LinkedIn. I find LinkedIn is a spot where I feel I can make real connections with people, and that people are having just real conversations. And I always find Facebook, I never know who I'm talking to. It's like I don't know, but LinkedIn is my favorite place to be. And I find that the women that are there are ones that are open to new contacts and new ideas. So that's really my main two ways that I reach out to people and let people know what's going on, is through my networks and through LinkedIn.
great. So how do people find you and your work?
Well, my company, or my website, is inspiredtenacity.com.
Mhm.
So that's the easiest way to find all the information about my upcoming books and my previous books. There's a spot there where you can download some of my previous books for free as a PDF copy. And so that's the best way to find the most information. And yes, if you're on social media, you can find me on LinkedIn.
Beautiful. Well, I ask the same last question of every guest on this show. The show is called Women Awakening. What do you think is the most important thing about women awakening in this moment on the planet?
I think the biggest thing is to give ourselves permission, to really allow ourselves to stop and think, what do I want the rest of my life to look like? And, for many of us in our 50s and 60s and 70s, we've still got decades of perfect time of, we're we're wise, we're experienced, we have all this life experience that we're bringing. Now is the time to be starting new things. Whereas our culture's kind of told us, by the time you're 50, you're old and obsolete and nobody wants to hear what you have to say. So I think the more that we actually stick together as a community, be role models for each other, and really be encouraging each other to look at these new opportunities and possibilities and see them as things that we can do, not just that somebody else is doing. But so really that idea of giving yourself permission to ask yourself, what do you actually want to do next? And to not be held back by those people telling you to, oh, calm down, you'll get over this. Oh, just carry on with what you're doing. Everything's fine. Find those communities of women who are doing new crazy things, because in this day and age, there is endless opportunities and possibilities for us to just create. And like I was saying, my whole business is something I never dreamed that I would be doing.
Right, right.
So it's all here for us right now.
Kathy, thank you so much. That's so beautifully stated. I'm so grateful you came on the show. I'm so inspired by what you are doing and the creating the opportunity for women to bring their voices. I just think it's powerful. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. It's been wonderful.
Okay, ladies, I close the show the same way, and there's a same message but different words. You know, your presence on this planet matters. Your essence is important. The gifts that you bring, the voice that you have, the story that you have lived and are living, all of those things matter. And so, what I want to say to you is dare to step into spaces like what Cathy said. She didn't know what she was going to be doing. She just got inspired and she took one step at a time. That's all you have to do, one step at a time. I'm so grateful to walk this path with you. I love you, and I'll see you next time.